This program is produced by Eagle Mountain Apostolic Resource Center. To find additional episodes of this program, as well as other content, visit eaglemountain.tv.
Some see, you know it. You can just see visions and you're more visual. Some just know. You've got that radar and you just know things that you couldn't actually know.
This program is about stewarding the word God has given. It's about putting apostolic feet to prophetic hope. It's our mission to purposefully equip the world to transform their regions with God's love. We want to create an atmosphere of divine influence to the nations by walking in the power of His Holy Spirit with a faith that shapes the future. Welcome to Inside the Ark.
Hello, welcome to Inside the Ark. I am here with Chris, Bobby, and Becky, and we are going to discuss a message called A Prophetic Culture that Bobby has given in our house here. And if you would like to watch that entire message, please check the show notes and you'll find the full link there. But for now, let's digest a little bit of what a prophetic culture means.
Yeah, that's
because I think that this is something that some of us may be a little bit knowledgeable on, and some of us watching may have no idea what this means. So, what does it mean? What is a prophetic culture?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Yeah. As Christians, we're called to have prophetic understanding. What does prophetic mean anyway? I think the best way to define prophetic is literally just hearing the voice of God. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Ephesians 4 talks about how prophets are given leadership in the body of Christ to teach other people how to hear God, how to prophesy, how to do the work of the ministry. And so that's their goal, is not just to prophesy, but to teach other people how to do it. Wait, we can learn to prophesy? Yes. Read 1 Corinthians 14. You may all grow. You may all learn, and you may all practice on each other. So it's wonderful to learn how to hear God's voice for each other. And to create a culture of that means it's not just one person doing that. You don't have a culture until everybody within the culture is doing that. And that's Paul's desire when he said, you may all prophesy. It's not just me, and it's not just leaders. I've laid out for you that it is me, and it is the leaders in Ephesians 4, but I'm really not satisfied until you all prophesy. And Paul would say, it's not just me, it's the Lord. It's the way He set up His church. So prophetic culture is people who are hearing God for themselves and hearing God for each other on a regular basis.
I like to say it's God thoughts.
Perfect.
You know, what are the thoughts of God? Because hearing can denote sometimes that it's like an audible voice, and He doesn't always speak audibly.
Right.
Just like we don't always speak audibly. We have body language.
Yeah.
We, we'll reference like movies or like a picture, or you'll hear a song, and or somebody
you can say a lot with a sniff.
You can. I mean, like you can do. There's so many different ways that we communicate, and God loves to communicate in a whole bunch of different ways. And I think He uses, specific ways for each of us that we can understand and relate to. But we can all grow in our hearing of Him and what His thoughts are. Because a lot of times people will say, well, the prophetic is a commentary on what has happened in the world. And I would beg to differ, because that isn't God's thoughts necessarily on what has happened in the world. Prophetic often denotes what His current thoughts are and what He's thinking about something that's about to happen. And, I remember my mom, before she died, she lived in Louisiana, and there was this hurricane that had hit. And so I reached out to her and I said, well, how are you doing? And she said, I'm doing fine. We're doing good. And she said, but you know what? This isn't the hurricane we all need to worry about. She says there's going to come a hurricane that is actually going to cause great damage to New Orleans. And so that's the one that it's going to take, we've got to be very careful about that. And it's going to take, a lot of the news attention is going to come here.
Wow.
And so this was in, I don't know, the late 90s when she told me this. She died in 1999. Hurricane Katrina then hit in 2004?
4, yeah.
And so, or 2005, whatever it is. Yeah. And so I know that she was prophetic.
Right.
And the way that she heard, she didn't even understand or recognize that she was hearing him. She didn't know, hey, God told me this. She just knew that there was something coming.
Yeah, a bigger one. Yeah.
There was a bigger one coming. And so I think sometimes the prophetic culture, we're saying things or we're communicating things, and we don't often recognize that it is God that is sharing that with us, and that it is, so when we're communicating it, we don't recognize that it's something that he's already putting into play. We just think we're just talking.
Yeah, that's really good.
And so I think it's really, as a prophetic culture, it's really, we're growing in that.
Yeah.
And we're growing in understanding, hey, God does want to talk to all of us. God does want to share his thoughts with us. And he does want people to recognize his voice.
Yeah.
That's really good.
When Jesus says, I only do what I see the Father doing, I feel like that's what you're talking about. And I think most of us can relate to an experience where we know someone so well, we can be in an environment with them and kind of know how to interact with them without discussing it in advance, right? Like maybe it's your spouse or someone that you work with closely, and you just kind of know what they're thinking, you know what they're doing, or they start doing something and you know what they're going to need. They don't even have to ask, you kind of already know. And I feel like that, developing that is one of the prerequisites to really having a prophetic culture. Would you say that's a good way to think of it?
I would say that understanding how you hear is going to be super important because, as you mentioned already, everybody's different. And I kind of hear, that sound where the needle runs across the record and you do a record scratch.
Yep.
But what about false prophets? Matthew 7, beware of false prophets. And there's that nagging voice that as soon as you start talking about creating a prophetic culture, that voice comes out of the corridors of wisdom, trying to help us to create balance and to beware of false prophets. So then because of the abuse, do you not have the real? Or is the abuse a clarion call for the real? And so this is important that we discuss it. It's why we're discussing it, and it's why it needs to become a culture, and it's why we need to discuss how many ways and different ways that people hear. Some see, you know it. You can just see visions, and you're more visual. Some just know. You've got that radar, and you just know things that you couldn't actually know. Some sense, some feel, some literally hear. And so I think it's Matthew 11 or 13 says, take heed then how you hear. So there's a way that you hear. And it's still the voice of God. So that's one thing we learned early on in prophetic training is that the voice of God is rarely a voice. It's ran through how you hear. And everybody hears differently. Habakkuk chapter 2 said, I'll stand at my guard post to watch to see what you will say. Wait, I thought you heard what he said. No, I'm going to watch to see what you will say. People hear differently. Yeah. And so give yourself a break on how you hear. It's not going to be this 9,000-year-old voice. It
could be.
Yes, and it could be in 80s songs.
Yeah.
Or otherwise.
Or a movie.
Or even 90s songs.
Or 90s songs.
I mean, that's a little...
That's shaky. Yeah.
Did the 90s actually have songs? I don't know.
100%.
So, Alice, I feel like you got something cool. Talk to us.
I have something cool. I think that, we didn't necessarily grow up with a prophetic culture as in being bold and in your face. It wasn't something that was ever talked about
Positively.
This is definitely something that's very prevalent in the bigger church, where it's just I think we feel like we need to control what's happening, and so we just kind of don't talk about this. We don't want to look at this. We don't want to practice this and discuss it, because if we can keep it inside the box, then it's well controlled, and we don't have to deal with anybody coming up and saying, hey, they hurt my feelings over what they said, or that's a false prophet. It just kind of just takes a whole bunch of problems right off the table. So we think.
Right.
But what are we missing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
What are we missing? So that, circles back. Well, if the Lord's put this into scripture and he's told us to be prophetic and to practice this, and that this is indeed a muscle to grow, then that's something that needs to be practiced in the church, whether or not you're scared that you can't control something.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Our cessationist friends would say, but if I'm going to concede that there is true prophets, which they wouldn't necessarily do anyway, but if I'm going to concede that, then if they're speaking by the Spirit of the Lord, then they're going to get it right. They're going to nail it. They're going to nail it every time. Except that Paul says, you may all prophesy so that all may grow, all may learn.
Yeah.
And so, wait a minute, if I was nailing it every time and there was no need for the Spirit of God to grow because he nails it every time, then why would there be any sort of incubator for growth, except that is the church. We all see in part, we all prophesy in part, and we all are learning to discern the way that we hear. It doesn't mean that God is less. It doesn't mean that he's confused about what he's saying. It just means we're learning to hear him.
Yeah.
Right. I do love the fact that we're talking about how there's so many different ways that each of us individually hear, and that stands to reason because we're unique individuals, and unique
that's true.
individuals are going to hear in the unique ways that he speaks. So we don't have to try to compare ourselves with somebody else and how, well, they've just always got this eloquent word and they just, just rolls right out.
Yes.
But, and I'm really, very much speaking to myself about this, because I always want to be sure that, I'm not just making something up, but it's really, it's, for some of us, it's a little risky stepping out there and saying something that we're, not entirely sure if it's, from the Lord or whatever, but it is definitely an exercise.
Yeah.
And
let's just go back really quickly to the example of my mom. So my mom did not know that she was prophetic. She would just do things and say things that would come to pass. I mean, when I first got saved, she mails me a Bible. And the Bible that she mails me is for children's leaders. Okay. And I'm just saved.
Random. Yeah.
All right. So, and as I think back on the different times in my life, she used to come into my room and she would say, so this is what you're planning to do, and this is what your friends are waiting. And she'd line out my whole entire night. And then she'd be like, so you're not going to be able to go. And I was like, I can't get away with anything. She knows everything I'm doing. So how, I think, if we use her example, if you could consider using her example as to how we all are, we are probably way more prophetic than we realize.
Yeah.
And really what we're having to come to terms with is our mindset and our belief. Does God really want to speak to me?
Right.
Because he's already speaking to us.
So what are we tuning out because of a bad belief?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love thinking about it like that for a couple reasons, but when you were saying this earlier, I was thinking this, Bobby, do you know some Spanish words?
A few.
See,
So if someone came in and started speaking rapidly, rapido, with Spanish, you would pick up some words.
Yes.
But you would hear in part.
Yes.
But you could learn to hear more.
yep.
So if you then relayed to me, who knows fewer Spanish words, it's fuzzy. You're not getting it all perfect. But you could work to learn more, which means you could communicate to me more of what the Lord is speaking to you through Spanish, right? That is a very good way, I think, to think about it. We did grow up in cessationist environment, and they do use beware of false prophets to declare that there are no prophets, to which I would now say, do you believe there is counterfeit prophets? Yes. Do you believe there's counterfeit money? Yes. Well, then can you just hand me all of yours?
Yeah, right.
Because if there's counterfeit money, we
Yours
better
could
not
be.
have any money.
Yeah.
So I'll just go ahead and relieve you from the stress of having any money by taking all of your cash, because there is counterfeit money out there.
Yeah.
And it's really dangerous to do that, because if you go in saying, because there are some fake dollars out there, I shouldn't use any dollars, you no longer can operate in our society.
That's good.
The same is true, I believe, in our assignment with the Lord. If we start with the belief that because there's some false teachers, some false prophets, and because you don't fully understand Spanish fluently, then we might as well not do any. We won't be able to walk out our assignment. We won't.
Yeah.
We'll be missing all kinds of things.
Yeah. Jesus points out in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 7, hey, beware of false prophets. So he's like, I want to bring this up. It is a thing. And then he goes on to clarify just in a few verses there. And he says, so every good tree bears good fruit, but bad trees bear bad fruit. And he's like, you're going to know them by their fruit. Mm-hmm. He never mentions accuracy in all the ways that we judge what we think are false prophets today. It's got to go back to Deuteronomy 18 and 21. If they speak anything and it doesn't come to pass, off with his head. And so we're constantly just, again, passing judgment on all this stuff. But Jesus ups the ante in the New Testament and says, now I want you to judge based on fruit. OMG.
Yeah, that's
going to
different.
take
It's
some
a lot
time.
different.
I'm going to have a certain amount of relationship, be in close proximity, because I didn't like her hairspray and I didn't like the way they looked and all the outward things that I judge people on. And he's like, sorry, you're going to have to be closer than that. You're going to have to be in the same circle so that you can judge fruit. And so what is more important in judging the word is accuracy or fruit. Agabus in Acts, he gets a word for the Apostle Paul, and he gets some of the details wrong. And he says that it's the Jews that are going to bound his hands, and he took off his belt and wrapped it around his hands, and he gets there, and it's actually the Romans who do it.
Right.
Right word, got a detail wrong. And
Was he false?
No, he was actually called a prophet of the Lord twice.
Right.
He prophesied the famine in
Right.
in Antioch or whatever first.
Yeah.
And then he prophesied Paul's thing. And he's known as a real prophet, not a false prophet.
Right.
But he got some of the details wrong. So what does that mean? That means we all prophesy in part. It goes back to what Paul said. It means we're all learning. But it means that if you, on the contrary, he told me everything that I know. Well, what was that lady who was chasing Paul around?
Yep.
Going, I know who you are. And she knew everything about him. She was accurate.
She was dead on accurate.
And she was not from God.
No.
Right.
Don't get caught up in doing accuracy. You can call 1-900
You're talking
get a
about
word.
the fortune teller, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can call 1-900 get a word, and they'll be accurate.
Don't call that number.
It's not a thing, but you know what I mean? You can get, accuracy can't be your measurement. Fruit has to be your measurement.
God loves us. He wants to have a relationship with us. And if any argument, if any whatever statement causes us to shut down communication with God.
Yep.
Can we truly believe that it is
Yeah.
from God?
It should be under question.
It should be under question. Because God never wants you to shut down your hearing, your ability to hear him, see him, and prophesy because of a fear that you're going to get it wrong, how you're going to look, what it's going to sound like, what it's going to be like, or because you don't really hear from him.
Well, and also on the receiving end of things, I think that there is a lot of people, I should have somebody in my mind, who, got a word from someone and it didn't come to pass or whatnot, but
They think.
like your life isn't over yet, right?
And you may not know.
But
exactly.
literally just shut God out because of that one thing.
Yeah.
Why would...
Let's not do that.
Let's not do
Come
that.
on.
Let's not
Why
do
would
that,
you do
people.
that to yourself?
right.
Because that you're
Yes.
doing something to yourself here.
Yeah.
That's right. That's so
And
good.
it's that's wow.
Yep. We can all prophesy. There are offices of prophets who, not everyone's a prophet. He gave some to be those, but everyone can prophesy. So there you go. So that means you can prophesy. And one of the ways that Paul says you can prophesy, and we can all prophesy, is for edification, exhortation, and comfort. So if you miss it, you're going to edify, exhort, and comfort someone in an area they don't need it. Which is awesome.
Is that bad?
No, you can practice on me anytime.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
dare you to
I'll
edify
take that.
me in a place
I'll
I
take
don't
that.
I dare you to edify me.
build me up in a place I don't need it. And if, it's when we start saying, hey, you're going to move to Colorado and we need to be seen as the title and the one that's giving you a corrective directive, then, let's just start with edification, exhortation, and comfort. And then I always like to go accountable and just go, hey, did that mean anything to you? And not try to make it up. If they say, no, it doesn't now, doesn't mean you didn't nail it. It could mean now that you spoke it, it's going to come on the radar in a couple weeks or months or years. But if your heart is to edify and not just to be accurate, and if it's really about God and you feel his heart for people, I'm not just wanting to be right or accurate, because that's more about me than it is the person I'm trying to love and ask God to love through me. But when it's about them and their edification, exhortation, and comfort, you're really not going to miss the heart of the Lord if you're going after the heart of God versus your accuracy. It is fun to want to grow. It is fun to want to ask. False prophets, they don't want accountability. Don't even tell me, nope, sorry, if I missed it, that's you. That's your faith. You didn't you didn't receive it well, and they just don't like any of that. They're super hyper spiritual all the time. God tells them everything. Self-promotion. They do judge based on accuracy, not fruit, by the way. They don't care a lick about character. They just want to be right. Dude, I was the one who got that word back in 1999. God gave me that word before he gave it to anybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody does that at all these days. But
It's never happened.
who's judging? So if we're all about like hyper spiritual and just we got to be the need and it's more about us, then you're walking the line. Make sure you love on people well and make it about them. Make it about the Lord and what he's doing in a person. See their gold, pull that out, and you'll do well.
Yeah.
If I threw
So
away
good.
that Bible, that children's, it took, I was not leading children's ministry for 4 years.
Wow.
I had that Bible.
Interesting.
I just knew
She
and
knew way in
learned
advance.
that, even though she didn't know that God was speaking through her, I knew God was speaking through her.
Right.
And if I would hold on to that Bible, one day I would need it.
Wow. It's amazing. We hear in part and see in part. So we get a little bit of data and then we fill in all of the gaps. It reminds me of the Jurassic Park. They filled in the gaps and then they went bad. If you saw the movie, it didn't go well for everybody. So we shouldn't be filling in those gaps. We fill in the gaps, and then when it doesn't happen the way that we filled in all the gaps, then we're mad at God or whoever. I think it's much better to take in with an understanding that the Lord is kind of working through. he wants those words to develop our relationship with him. So we should be going to him with that stuff, and to the point of, people, and maybe we've all done it, where we kind of hear something and then it doesn't work out the way that we think. And then because of that, now we're angry at God, even though he may not have even said what we thought he said. Mm-hmm. Like all the time, that's the case. So I think it's better to stand with this posture of kind of how you're describing it, and also with the mindset of, what is the Lord revealing to me through what this person is saying? Not just because maybe they're giving a word and maybe it's very accurate, but maybe even their interpretation of it isn't accurate. The word might be, their interpretation might not be. So I think there's a lot of variables that we need to pay attention to. But I'm realizing right now that we're out of time. And so with that, thank you for joining us, you guys. This is super good. There's a link in the show notes to the full message, so you should click on that, watch the whole message. It's going to be amazing. There's also some other resources that you need to know about, so you can find those at eaglemountain.global. If you go there, there's tons of amazing resources there, as well as other episodes of Inside the Ark, other programs, and all of these full messages. It's all right there. There's also a button that says Give. If you would click on that and consider supporting what we're doing in our ministry to help facilitate the creation of shows like this and creating the things that we're doing, that would be amazing. There's also an app on your phone. You can go search in your app store for Eagle Mountain Bend, 3 separate words, Eagle Mountain Bend. You'll find our app, amazing resources and tools there as well. So you guys, I hope that you have been blessed by this. I know that I have. Go check out the full message, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside the Ark. We hope that you've been blessed by this program. If you'd like to discover other episodes of Inside the Ark, please visit eaglemountain.global. We'd also love for you to prayerfully consider supporting this and other programs available on Eagle Mountain TV. You can give to this ministry by visiting eaglemountain.global and clicking on the Give tab. We hope to see you in the next episode.